Our focus on the conversation today will be on the Cassava Bread Initiative, and we'll be looking at some of the issues that have come up in the last couple of years since the initiative started. I'm being joined on the program by Femi Salami, he's a member, Cassava Processors Association, and Kingsley Igwe, he's a baker. Good morning, gentlemen, and thank you for coming on.
Good morning, having me here.
Well, you know, even though I know that this initiative has been around for a very long time, that's the Cassava Bread Initiative, could you just remind us for how many years we've actually been promoting this project?
Okay.
Yes, I think, Femi, you should take that question. You're from the Cassava Processors Association.
Yeah, the initiative had been on since 50s. It commenced after research by Food FAO. They were trying to check the food imports of some developing countries. And the findings, result in the fact that this cannot be sustained. The fund being deployed to importing food all around the world was at alarming rate, which as a particular product caught the attention of the world, and from then research commenced. And one of the things that premised from that initiative of the fact that some research institute needs to begin to look at alternative to wheat, because from as at 2012, the reports at our disposal show that every single day of the year we use over 2 billion naira to import wheat into the country. And you can imagine the impact. And that's why the likes of, FIRO commenced the research work on use of composite flour in production of bread.
I guess that's what I want to know.
Exactly.
When exactly did that start? When did Nigeria, begin to realize that let's begin to reduce the amount of money we spend on importing wheat and pay more attention to something more nutritious like cassava flour?
Yeah, if I may come in here, effectively we could say it started under the regime of the President Obasanjo. Okay. He made impact, and sensitized people. And within a short while, he went down into the doldrum. So the latest regime under the Minister of Agriculture came up, revived it, and it has been effective since then. Yeah. So if you start tracing back, it's been on, because since the introduction of cassava into Nigeria in the 50s, there has been an improvement in terms of research on what we can do with it. But effectively, it started under President Obama, the second tenure of his administration.
Okay, so now that we've established that, I just wanted us to, get that fact straight. You said it has actually again kicked off now with the Minister of, this present Minister of Agriculture, Akinomi Additional, actually spearheading it.
Yeah.
Has there been any progress?
Yeah, there has been, because data, statistics are there to show.
Data statistics, is it what we're always going to, because you see, a lot of times, let's be realistic, in real terms, in real life, how effective or how much progress has this project made?
Well, maybe I should just come in at this juncture. Well, there are progress, but in terms of the delivery, Nigeria is over 170 million people, 170 million. So you can imagine for any remarkable impact to be felt, at least you must be thinking of about 80 million or 100 million people feeling the impact. Cassava bread is on the stable of ShopRite, Pack and Shop. Some bakeries in Ekiti State, I know Wonder Loaf, in Kwara State, Fortunate Bread. There are some, even in Okitipupa, they produce cassava bread. But you see, you can imagine, that's why Nigeria is a large place. So for you to feel the impact, if you go to ShopRite in Abuja, you are going to see cassava bread. Pack and Shop in Lagos, I can't confirm the one in Lagos, ShopRite in Lagos, but a lot of people have started embracing. Even Transcorp Hilton, they make cassava bread. These are some of the things. But you see, common man on the street, how can you feel it? Have you seen cassava bread before? Those are some of the...
Let me come to Kingsley. Now, Kingsley, you're a baker.
I am.
Do you bake cassava bread?
I tried it. In 2011, 12. And it didn't really work out well I don't blame anybody because like that was the time it was reintroduced.
Why didn't you work out? Was it that the customers did not accept it, or you?
It didn't work because the notion we had then and the one that I was supplied to bake with was 60 cassava flour, 40 wheat. So and then it's not something that you will just bake and it will be on the step because I produce for the masses. I don't produce for the high class. You know what I mean? So now if you give it to them and they don't sell it on their table that day, next day it will become so, there'll be a lot of crumbs. You know, but you see, because of that, as a businessman, it couldn't work out for me because I can't sell and then return it back. That doesn't mean it's working out. But you see, when I said earlier on that it's working and I use the word statistics and data, that is where I'm talking about. You see, when you hear the minister talk about this thing, he's so passionate. And I like that. I tried it because he brought me into it from the way he was talking about it.
Now, if he bought you into it, sorry, Kingsley, let me just cut you here. If you bought into his idea, did you understand what they were trying to promote at that time? That it was 10%?
100%. No. Like, I based on facts. They didn't say it was 10%. It was when that one failed. That even now, it's not 10%. They are saying 20%. Nobody said 10. It's 20% cassava. 80 now. But then it was 60, from 60 to 40. When it didn't work at 60, they came to 40. But there was no pronouncement. Nobody knew about these things. We were used as guinea pigs. I am a living example of it because
now that you have it at 80 to 20%, have you tried it and have you tried to market it as well?
Yeah, I've tried it because these days it's working in a way because if it is 20, 80, you could see that notion of cassava bread, the way I wanted it, of let the country get something for us rather than importing. It's 2080. Most of the things that you see import wheat, it doesn't mean that you stop importing it if it is still 80-20.
Okay, so now that also brings us to the question of the quality of this flour. And I'm going to come to you, Femi, on that. You know, most flour millers have actually complained about the availability of the right quality of cassava flour. That's the high quality cassava flour, HQCF. Is this true? And do they have any reason to complain?
Well, from the name of the product, high quality cassava flour, that means something has been pushed into it. The reality is all the flour mills in Nigeria have a laboratory that they check any product you are bringing in. In fact, they have had courses to send back some product. You see, production of high quality cassava flour is processed through some medium, but the most acceptable, which at every opportunity we have had, and which the flour mills are also aware, the fact that we must do the wet process and flash dry into dry and then you mill. But you see, for years back in Nigeria, in northern part of Nigeria, they've been processing cassava into powdery products. Some people still go through that. But the question is, you have your quality control lab, you have your structure. Before you can even start taking any product into any of your mill, you check. I feel that particular problem had been in the past because there's nobody now that is into high quality cassava flour that you don't have a certificate of analysis. It is after that certificate of analysis that you can now be bringing your product. And at every delivery, they will take that sample and go and check in their laboratory. So that had been corrected years back. And to add to it, most of the processors have direct relationship with this flour mill. So they can check on you, do on-the-spot check with or without, routine, without information as regard when they are coming to check you. And to buttress the issue of quality, a lot of impact have been put into it. Collaboration with, Bill Gates Foundation cover, training, various cassava processing plants on the right manufacturing processes, collaboration with NAFDAC, Standard Organization of Nigeria. In fact, as a matter of fact, they were represented on the board. And the truth about it is, cassava processing is not for Tom, Dick, and Harry. You need some good money to start it.
Exactly.
And when you
So I
start,
was going to
so
ask,
when you're going
that
to
means-
start such things,
That means all the challenges have been addressed for cassava
to a
farmers.
Yes.
very large extent, to a
Yeah.
very large extent.
So if they have been addressed, why aren't we seeing high quality cassava flour that we need hitting the market?
That's where I would like to come in. You see, this issue of policy pronouncement is a problem. It causes a lot of things, bottleneck and every other thing. The fund is there, just as we know. There is 9.9
9
billion.
billion.
Now, there is 15% levy from the import. However, the federal government will assess it. I don't know how to get it. So there is BOI mapped out and dedicated with 4.3 billion to sponsor SMEs, master bakers, and processors. There is 2.4 by Bank of Agric to manage with 13 private stakeholders. These are the funds. They are there. The minister talks about it, and it's there. You know that it's there. But the problem why you are not seeing this thing on the table and it's not common is because of how do you access these funds? And that's what I want to address. See, all these donor agencies, when they give grant, fund, and to go back a little, it is 50-50. 50% grant, 50% loan, 1 digit. So if you have it, as you are good to go. So what am I saying? The government, they have said this thing is there. I advise, I'm a baker, let them have some experts, so to say, who could work on these local people. Tell them how to assess these funds, how to write their proposals. If it is something that they have to zone, those that the areas that they produce this cassava, the master bakers should be tutored. How
Yeah, but
to
I
assess this
think
fund.
I remember there was once, there were programs like that were organized by the Ministry of Agriculture to ensure that
It's a one-off thing.
No.
It was one-off.
I think I should clarify some issues. The question that he responded to, why are we not saying high-quality cassava flour? He mentioned a critical part, the policy somersault, immediately after the Obasanjo regime. During the regime, the initiative was put at the front burner. A lot of SMEs, a lot of processors, invested heavily, including my good self. But after 2007, after Obasanjo regime, a lot of us lost so much money because it was not sustained until this present moment. So, fund by various investors, we lost fund, as it were, until now. So you can imagine people that have built factories over some period of time and are not making the best out of it. They are out of business. Some of the factories, some of us took money from banks. A lot of people use their retirement benefits to set up high-quality cassava processing plant. And by virtue of that policy somersault, it went down the drain.
But
Now, with the new advent,
exactly.
with the new administration, 2011, 2012, that was, revigorated process towards revamping that process. However, the flood of to be sincere with you, the cost profile of high-quality cassava flour is the major problem why we are not seeing it on the table now. After the flooding of 2012, the price of cassava went over the roof. Prices that were going between 5,000 to 10,000, 10,000 per ton, now moved to close to 20,000 per ton of HQ-safe. And the price that the flour mills are, taking per ton of HQ-safe, they did not change the price.
But Femi, can I quickly interrupt you here? Kingsley actually reeled out a couple of figures here. The Ministry of Agriculture has actually set aside 9.9 billion naira, and then the Bank of Industry as well as the Bank of Agriculture also has some set of funds as well. Now, if all of these funds is available, why can't you access it? I mean, you're cassava growers, cassava farmers, cassava processors, you're a baker as well. And it seems as if the issue is communication here on how best to access
Let me
these
just
funds.
say what had happened. After the approval of Mr. President of the 9.9 billion, the minister, in his wisdom, did something remarkable that is worthy of applause. He set up the stakeholders, members of cassava processors that are involved with baking of high-quality cassava flour, representative of cassava growers that are growing the cassava, and master bakers with the regulatory agencies were set up, the stakeholders, there are about 13 as it were, to administer the fund. And aftermath of the impeach was the funding. 2.46 billion was taken to Bank of Agric to plant cassava so that the price that I've been talking about earlier on can be crushed. But that will not happen until this planting season. In fact, there have been contact with some of the selected processors, because the way it's supposed to be is each of the processors that is going to benefit will have outgrowers that will plant cassava targeted towards production of high-quality cassava flour. That had been done.
Okay.
Now the fund, the other...
If I may come in,
they will just quickly go to...
Question. Okay, you asked the question, why is it not available? And that's what I'm telling you. I'm a baker.
Yes, I'm trying to...
Now, if I can, you are talking as a processor. I'm a baker.
No.
Now,
can you just give me 1 minute to just...
You can't tell me that cassava, for me to assess it, is going to be difficult, and I have to wait until another planting season. My sister, what I am telling you is real. See, these people cannot access this fund. The fund is there. What I am telling the government to do, they have a laudable project, and they are planning and doing it. The minister is so passionate about this. I'm telling you the truth. What I am trying to advise him is that, how do you enable these people to access this fund? If they can access the fund, they will have it.
Okay.